you've done is a big deal. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for the years. It's been a pleasure. We're going to continue, and we've got a lot of exciting things coming up this year for membership. So we're going to double the size of a lot of these clubs. So,
thank you again. Honor Luke.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jim.
Sure.
And congrats, Luke. I think those ears are fitting. So real quick, some club announcements. Anne had brought to my attention, we need attention for the Facebook page. So I know that many of us don't use Facebook, I included. So in that situation, it's a little more difficult, complicated. I did create a dummy profile. I have one friend, it's my wife. And so I will be supporting, I don't have a big network, but if you do have a network, if you're using Facebook, it would be really awesome if you could go every once in a while and spread the word of what's going on. Anne's putting up a lot of photos, a lot of content for us. So we'll be working on that, part of the public image group. So that's Anne and George right now, and they'll be
Just say it went off again. See, it's not working for them either.
How do you know?
Just say that. Just say it's not working on my side. Is it working on your side?
Are you getting any noise?
Did you mute?
It went off again.
No, when the video goes, the audio goes.
Okay.
And so what it looks like is that there's some sort of
Not my
timeout auto off type thing
Oh.
that's being triggered. My guess is he doesn't have it plugged in. He's trying to go off a battery, and the software says, "Oh, you're going off a battery. You're not doing anything. I'll turn this off to save battery." That's what I'm guessing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be interesting to do. Thank you.
But you see what Jay typed earlier. He goes, he tested it multiple days, and it dies when he wants to really use it. Oh, here we are.
My assumption is that the message was passed, Flatirons will participate one way or another as a program. That still need a volunteer to Chase House dinner last Friday. If you're volunteering, I don't want to volunteer anyone. Thanks, Mary Beth. Well, we got Mary Beth. Thank you. Well, we have peach sales updates. I put up our logo here. As of last night at midnight, we had just about $1,400, so $1,400 in sales online. And I know that we have a lot of other sales offline. So, do you have any other updates that we want to do today? No?
So is there a link, like if someone, if one of your people will say they want to pay online?
Yeah, it's rotarypeach.org. Yeah, or .com if you forget. So it'll work either way. Yeah, and right on there, there's a storefront. You click, you could browse through all the things that we're offering. The jams, barbecue sauces, vinegars, and actual peaches, both a full flat and a half flat. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then it goes through PayPal. So you can use credit card. You don't have to sign up for an account. You can just click no account and then pay that way if you want to. Okay. Yeah. And then Marty, would you like to do some additional awards from?
Yes, one person's here, so I want Marcia to come up with me, please. This was supposed to be a surprise, but Marcia knows now. But I announced at the dinner that Marcia received the Vanita Sturgeon Service Above Self Award. And at the dinner, I talked about Vanita and her amazing, amazing life. And I'm not going to repeat those things this morning, but she was an amazing woman. And so we established this award a few years ago to honor Vanita. And so the president chooses each year a Rotarian who's highly active in volunteer service, above service, new member, mentoring, fundraising, other service. And then Marcia will have her name engraved on the plaque that the club keeps. But I also ordered her another award that she'll be able to keep at her house. Also, which is back on the table, I'll give it to you in a few minutes. You get 1,000 foundation points with this award. So with that 1,000 foundation points, Marcia now has a Paul Harris +2. So yay, Marcia. She's a past grants chair, a member of the District Literacy and Education Committee, creator of our Love Club's Literacy Award, chair of the Literacy Award Committee for our club. She's a club board member. She volunteers for many club service projects. She's a mentor to our almost member, Ellen, back there. And she also actively volunteers with There With Care, which is dedicated to supporting families with critically ill children. And she volunteers with other community organizations as well, including teaching multi-level ESL students. So Marcia, you are so deserving of this award. And so I want to take it out so you can look at it. So Marcia, again, congratulations. Thank you.
That was awesome. We have another award also for another date, so that happens soon. Real quick, a few district announcements for everyone. In Grand Lake from the East Troublesome Fire, the district is still doing fire relief work. So if you're interested, there's all sorts of tasks that you can do, everything from helping rake around certain buildings to clearing brush. So depending on how strong your back is feeling that day, there's a lot to be done out there. And they have events all the time. So if you don't get the district emails, let me know and I can forward them to you. There's a Rotary 101 that's kind of like our fireside that might be interesting to hear from the district. It's August 10th. It's a virtual meeting in the evening. So if you're interested, you can hear a little bit more about that. Again, this is just a selection, so a lot. The Move Humanity bike event that was supposed to happen last year but got canceled. I know, Jim, we had talked about doing it, and it's rescheduled for September 25th. Unfortunately, this summer I sold my bicycle, so I don't actually have a bike to ride on anymore. Maybe I can go rent one. But they have multiple distances, everything up to a century ride, all the way down to just a few miles. So all sorts, and then there's lots of volunteer opportunities. So if you don't really feel like riding, but you want to be involved, it's one of the biggest fundraisers our district's had this last year. There is a lot of money. So it's pretty amazing. And the last one is a Rockies game. I know that some of y'all like the Rockies, so I got 4 tickets for it. So I'll have 2 tickets to give away sometime later this summer, but it'll be September 26th. All right. Happy Bucks. So this month our cause is the Alzheimer's Association. So for those who don't know what Happy Bucks are or forgot, because it has been a very long time, Happy Bucks is a time when we get to say something for the good of the order, something we want to talk about that makes us happy, just a little bit of news, and that generally comes with some sort of donation. And this month is for Alzheimer's Association. So I can get us started because I feel like I'm well overdue. So all the money in my wallet goes in. Last night was my 2nd anniversary with my wife. So we've been together for many years, but we got married right after she finished business school. And so I put in a whole bunch of money for that. So Bob. Thanks, Bob.
All the money was in my pocket and most of it was in my wallet. Yeah, because I helped my daughter buy a plane ticket to go to France with some friends, and she was selected to be a short-term exchange student in 2020. And her exchange was a girl in France, and one of the reasons why she was really excited and pushed and made money to help pay for this trip is she and me are going to meet. So they're both horse girls, and Edie jumps horses, and Lydia rides horses, and so I can't wait to hear. She just played it last night. She's a picture of her. She's fun.
This is for an unusual event, because I've been down there by 7 or so, all meetings sitting around the hotel. Considering I paid money to see some last. Miles from my house.
And I bought this happy dollar jar days. But anyway, it's just so good to see everybody in person. Just so good. And I also want to thank Jay for this hybrid setup. He has spent so much time and money trying to get this going. So I just wanted to shout out to him. Say it's great to see you all.
So my daughter Becca, who's 40 years old, is going to have her first baby in 10 days. So I'm excited about it.
I wanted to announce that the literacy board nomination nomination form is on the website.
So glad to hear Jay's friend. Son is Sunday.
My son has a match for a kidney. That is he got COVID. So we're supposed to have surgery July 12th. Now it's later. So our house is some stress. But he had shots. Still got the virus. For a couple of days, but he's not been. Now we're waiting for him to get over the investments to come back to the doctor. But he does have a friend, boy, Iowa, that's Denver, he's 17.
I'm at this, fireworks display at the city of Taylor. East of Fort House, supposedly the largest pyrotechnic display for the
Exchange person and some of the exchange person. And having this stand.
Just want to say, I'm glad we all survived the year here together. And thank you, Marty, for
That weekend with Korea.
I actually had to cards. I'm so sorry.
It's all donation. This is Matt. Matt is, he invited himself through me, so I'm excited to have someone say, I'm interested in Rotary.
I did. I originally from Kansas City, so I'm really comfortable with this. That's one reason Iowa, so we can talk about that. But yeah, great to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you all so very much. Well, I think without further ado, and the timing is right, let's move on to our presenter today. All right. Thanks, Bill.
So it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Byron Komanik. Is that how I pronounce it?
Pretty close.
Komanik is the owner and manager of Jack's Solar Garden, a 1.2 megawatt community solar garden in Boulder County. He is also the executive director of the Colorado Agri-Voltaic Learning Center, the nonprofit arm of Jack's Solar Garden, which provides educational opportunities to schools and community groups to learn about agrivoltaics. Byron is a former U.S. diplomat, having served in the U.S. Army or U.S. Agency for International Development in Zambia and Mozambique. He has over 15 years of international development and natural resource management experience. He holds an MS, a Master's of Science in Environmental Engineering from the University of North Carolina. And Byron has also hiked the Appalachian Trail with his dog, Rosie, in 2016. So welcome, Byron.
Morning, everyone. It's nice to be in front of people. Funny how that works. Yeah, as Bill mentioned, my previous career was in international development, serving our government with the U.S. Agency for International Development, and found my way back to my family's farm here in Boulder County to figure out a different life after having spent a couple of years over in the southern part of Africa. And so, is that the best way to do it? Sure, deal. Behind me is a picture of our family's farm. I shift to the side, is that better? Perfect. So on the top left picture is that of what our farm has been for the past 50 years. My grandfather, Jack, that's pictured there, is the one that purchased our land back in 1972. He used to have about 120 acres down in Broomfield from the 1930s until then, where my mother grew up. So our current farm, it's just about a mile south of Oscar Blues, has been owned by my mom, Eloise, since about the mid-90s. We've been producing hay for 40, 50 years, something like that. And maybe back 40, 50 years ago, it actually paid the bills pretty well. But come 2017, 2018, it really doesn't. So I started doing some economics of our land back when I moved out to our farm in 2016. We slowly learned that the bales that we sold on an annual basis on 24 acres of land in Boulder County couldn't pay the combination of our property taxes plus water rights plus utilities. So not even enough money to go to the grocery store on. And that's when we decided that we needed to make a change, figure out something else that we could do on our land. Our first stop was going and chatting with the friendly folks at the Land Use Department in Boulder County, and mentioned that we could look at a few different options. Like apparently everybody loves free range chickens, and said we could have about 5,000 of them on our farm. I wasn't overly interested in chasing chickens for the rest of my life. There was a fella just south of us that has a Christmas tree farm, and they said, you know what, that guy might share his business plan with you. It's like, I don't know if that's how businesses actually work. Somebody want to be your competitor, or you're going to share that? Yeah. And then another option was putting an equestrian center on our land. And we have about 3 of our neighbors that have equestrian centers, and they do it for the love, not the money. And if you're trying to compete to make money, going against somebody's love is a really hard thing to do. So I had a friend that was taking a beekeeping course with me at the time that's in the solar industry, and mentioned that our land was perfectly flat next to some 3-phase lines that Excel Energy has, and said, how about you look into doing solar? So we started down that path, started talking to Boulder County about it, what it would all mean. And back in 2017, it was actually illegal to do it. you could have over, I think, 100 kilowatts on farmland in Boulder County. Anything over that was considered too large, and the county wanted to respect the rural integrity of the land. So after about a year of talking with the county, with the commissioners, the planning commission, land use department folks, they changed their land use code so that we could build a 1.2 megawatt community solar garden on our property, so that we could work with a bunch of researchers to learn about what it would be like to grow crops underneath and around our solar panels. So that's a process called Agri-Voltaics that Bill was mentioning earlier. That's part of our nonprofit title of the Colorado Agri-Voltaic Learning Center. So Agri-Voltaics is simply the combination of solar panels with agriculture. This is a cutesy little thing I found online. Basically shows solar panels over top of crops. And yeah, it's a cartoon, so it's a little hard to see, but in reality, these are some different spots around the country that are doing agrivoltaics already at a very small scale, maybe only 10 kilowatts in size. The one in the middle is in Massachusetts, where they have panels that are the metal tube that goes across the top is about 8 feet high. So it enables people to have space underneath the panels to actually work the crops, and they're able to have cows out there, like in this picture. Cows, and then one of the more common types of agrivoltaics is having sheep. So you might see there's a handful of different solar arrays around Colorado that do have sheep out underneath their panels on a regular basis. And even that one at IBM that was built a few years ago, I've been told that they're supposed to have sheep out underneath the panels. I've yet to see it, but that was one of the, I think that was one of the reasons why Boulder County allowed them to do that in that space, for purposes of having sheep with it, keeping some agriculture designation. But so agrivoltaics can be growing crops, it can be having animals underneath it. And in Japan, they're doing something fun where they're actually growing mushrooms underneath the panels. Japan is a very land constricted space where they have a lot of energy demands. And so after the Fukushima disaster some years ago, a lot of smaller farms started doing agrivoltaics, where they put up some solar panels on space, but that was on their farmland. So they elevated the panels, and then they can still grow certain types of crops out there. So it's basically dual use of your land, trying to get as much good out of your land as possible. And around the world, people have been doing this. So Japan has I think 1,000 plus little agrivoltaic systems. China has the world's largest one at almost 1 gigawatt in size, which is 1,000 times larger than our system that I'll be talking about. And they're growing tons of goji berries underneath it. France, obviously, they're growing wine grapes underneath the solar panels, plus apple trees. In Belgium, they have pear trees, and in the Netherlands, they're trying raspberries. So all over the world, people are trying small amounts of crops underneath panels just to better understand what it's like growing crops with a solar array. And the benefits of having crops with solar panels is that here in Colorado, it provides shade. Oftentimes we hear about plants, like folks coming from the east say, my plant wants full sun. On the East Coast, full sun is like 6 to 8 hours a day. We get 14 to 15 hours a day here in July. So a lot of crops that are full sun don't really work out as well out here. They need a little bit of shade, or they can do better with a little bit of shade. So the panels can offer some shade to crops to help reduce heat stresses. We have hail out here and some pretty harsh winds. Those panels can help diminish the amount of hail on crops underneath the panels, as well as reducing the wind speeds. The panels can trap heat underneath them, so that the crops don't have as large a fluctuation in temperature as the rest of us experience. So it goes from nighttime to daytime. I think in the next couple of days it's going to be about 40-degree shift underneath the panels. It might only be a 30-degree shift. Just that extra 10 degrees can help reduce the stresses on those crops so that they continue to grow during the day. So those are some of the, and the best one of all out in Colorado is that the shade helps to reduce evaporation. You reduce evaporation, you keep more moisture in the soil. Keeping more moisture in the soil means you need less irrigation. In an area where we're having harder water constraints, and will so in the future, having opportunities of not using as much water for growing crops will be a means for adapting to climate change in the future. So again, the agrivoltaics is that combination of vegetable or with crops with land, having the benefits of the panels on top of the soils, as well as the plants transpire underneath them, they create a humidity, and that humidity during the middle of the summer can help keep the panels a little bit cooler. If you keep them a few degrees cooler, you might get a 0.5% extra efficiency. If you can keep them 10 degrees cooler, you might get a couple percent efficiency increase out of your panels. And with our system of 1.2 megawatts, we can power about 300 homes. And for every 1% increase in efficiency, that'd be another 3 homes that we could power over the course of a year. So it's not insignificant when you look at larger scales. Agrivoltaics is important because of our how much renewable energy is possible over time. So by 2030, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory sees that we could have up to 2 million acres underneath solar panels, and by 2050, there could be closer to 4 million acres. This land is not going to be in the middle of cities. It's going to be on farmlands where a lot of folks are smaller farms might be struggling and needing to find a different cash crop. And solar panels could be that way to do it. And there are certain solar companies that might go out there and say, you know what, we don't really care about the soil. We'll just tear all that stuff up and then just put solar panels out so that there's nothing growing underneath the panels. It's either just weeds or gravel or something like that. But agrivoltaics is the means of keeping those soils productive while also producing power on top of it. So that brings us to what we're doing. Jack Solar Gardens. This is my family's farm. I live in that little white brick house on the side. So what we did back last year was take this north field and turn it into, we did a design of 3,276 solar panels, 1.2 megawatts. We put in a large pollinator habitat around the perimeter of our solar array. And now it starts to look like that from an image on top of our silo. So since that's a little hard to see exactly what's going on there, we did this little time-lapse video. This was back over Thanksgiving. So you can see how the panels rotate east to west. So it's called single axis tracking. That improves your efficiency or how much power you can produce over time. You could also notice how the shade moves over our land. Oftentimes people say, well, if you put up solar panels, then it's just in full shade all the time, right? So just go ahead and focus your eyes on one lane, like maybe over in here or something. And you'll see that there's sun and shade that hits every part of our field over the course of the day. So everything gets some sun, everything gets some shade, so it just reduces evaporation. It might slow down a little bit of some crops that really want all the sun all day long. It might slow their sugar production down a little bit, but the other crops that want or that could use a little bit more protection from the sun can get that. Here's another one. So this is at ground level taken back in April, and you can see how the panels rotate fully east in the morning. There's the shade moving over where we're doing crop bed. We actually have a guy out today that's doing another one of these time lapses. And so it's nice to see how it changes over the course of the season. And so you can see how that shade just rotates slowly over the field. So there'll be different areas where crops get morning sun or midday sun or late afternoon sun. And the difference between those different types of sun is not necessarily that the sunlight is any different, but that the temperatures are different. So morning sun, it's not going to be hot yet outside, whereas late afternoon sun, that's our hottest time of day. So if you're increasing stresses from direct sun plus heat, that's when crops are going to be the most stressed. So you want to pick crops that can handle that amount of stress a little bit better. Like everybody loves squash. That one can always handle it. Here are some aerial views taken by Namaste Solar, who built our solar array last year. You can see in the large picture as well as the bottom left picture that there are some different little plots of green as well as darker brown. The darker brown areas are where we tilled the land in preparation for creating crop beds underneath the panels. And then the green areas are where we have scientists from Colorado State University, University of Arizona, and the National Renewable Energy Laboratory doing experiments to better understand how much soil moisture is retained over time, what are the ecosystem services being produced out underneath our panels, and if the University of Arizona is looking at using half as much water to irrigate their plots as other plots, just to see what that difference is. I'd stress that Jack Solar Garden is a community solar garden. It's where we're trying to bring in the community. We're trying to get folks out to our land. So we're not just producing power. We're not just growing crops there for folks. We're actually getting folks out to the land. So this was our opening ceremony back in the fall, where we had about 60 folks come out. Sprout City Farms did Sprout City Farms is a nonprofit organization out of Denver, growing crops on our field. And they had a fundraising event a couple months ago. So they were doing tours. You can see in that bottom picture where we actually have the tractor out there that was doing the tilling. And a couple of weeks ago, we had Jared Polis come out to the farm, and he signed a new bill that will put some money towards researching agri-voltaics in the state of Colorado to help other, help other community solar gardens better understand what it's like of growing crops out there. We also did have a banjo player. I forgot to put that video on there. Like we had a banjo player that his name is Pete Wernick. He was Dr. Banjo. He actually played with what's that fellow's name? Scruggs back long time since. He came out a few weeks ago and played underneath our panels. And we're hoping that we can continue to have music events where folks from the community come out and check that out. We also have an Artist on the Farm program where we give money to a local artist to come out and help show the community what it's like of being out around our panels. So last year we had an artist that took some of our old farm equipment, changed that, created some artwork from it. This year we have a dancer who was telling us that there were no venues open during COVID. So it's really nice to be able to work on the farm where people are more comfortable outdoors. And she is providing workshops for kids to come out and dance underneath the panels. And then we'll be taking videos of professional dancers. And we'll have, I think in October, actually do a movie screening on the farm. So these are just different ideas of how we're trying to make it a community. And we can't have all these community events without a bunch of people that are helping support us. So partnerships that we have are with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, CSU, and University of Arizona that have been doing all the research on our land, help lending gravitas to us so that we could have subscribers come in and support our purchase the electricity that we're putting back into the grid. Audubon Rockies funded the largest pollinator habitat that they've ever built or that they've ever planted in Colorado around the perimeter of it. So there's over 3,000 perennials out there. And we have the Colorado Agri-Voltaic Learning Center that I'll talk a little bit more about, where we're providing educational opportunities for kids. Our largest subscribers are a couple cannabis companies in the Flow Cannabis and Terrapin Care Station that both the city of Boulder and Boulder County have extra taxes on cannabis companies for growing for how much power they produce. And so they can either pay that tax to the government, or they can find a local community solar garden to subscribe into. So those folks found us, and it negates them paying that tax to the government, but it's helped us be able to do what we're doing. And we've also have Boulder County and City of Boulder that have subscribed it, plus these other folks. And what we're hoping Jack Solar Garden will look like is more like this, where we have bees, we have veggies, we have lots of flowers, and we actually have tours available for folks to walk around. And we are doing on-site tours. So every Saturday morning, if you're interested in coming out, Saturday mornings at 10 a.m., you can sign up online to get a spot. We cap it at about 20 people. You bring the family out. It's free for kids, for those that are 17 and under. I don't see anybody in here that's 17 and under. But if you have grandkids you want to bring along, that's an opportunity for them to come out for free. Everybody else pays about $15 to get a tour. And then you walk underneath our panels, you see what's going on. You get a different experience than most folks have had. How many people have actually ever walked out underneath solar panels? Couple, there we go. Well, the rest of you have an opportunity to now. And we'll be doing tours for school kids. So right now, our education director is reaching out to science teachers across the Front Range to get the science teachers to come out from high schools, teach them about what we're doing out underneath our panels. And then in the fall and the spring, we'll actually be bringing their classes out so that we'll have groups of 20 kids at a time, being able to learn more about solar panels, agriculture, as well as pollinator habitat. What we would like the Colorado Agri-Voltaic Learning Center to also go towards is being able to do farmer outreach, of actually going to other folks that are interested in having more opportunities to make some money off of solar, as well as continuing doing farming. So we would love to reach out to farms, talk to folks about that stuff, work with our local governments, state governments to figure out what types of incentives or other regulations help encourage agrivoltaics, as well as talking with companies about how they can change their infrastructure to help improve the case for agrivoltaics in certain areas. Basically elevating the panels up to a height where I can drive my pickup truck underneath. But if you'd like to learn more about what we're doing with our nonprofit at the Colorado Agri-Voltaic Learning Center, that's the website. It's part of the fun. Happy to take questions and chat with you all. Yeah.
But you actually get a check from Excel.
A check?
Yeah.
I get a monthly check from Excel for, we sell renewable energy credits to Excel on a monthly basis. And then we have our subscribers that you saw there that had, the companies pay us on a monthly basis as well. And then we've had residents and local governments that have also subscribed in too. Yeah.
I was kind of curious if Excel support you. How they look at solar intrusion. It doesn't sound like so what is your relationship with solar?
Sure. So Excel has asked us not to say that they're a partner of ours. They made that very explicit to us. So we are a participant in their program. Back in 2010, the Colorado State Legislature mandated that community solar gardens be an opportunity where local community groups can get together and build a solar array and be able to connect it into the grid. I don't think any of the utilities really like that idea, but the legislature enforced it. So I think around 2012 or 2014, Excel started having their community solar garden program where you bid into that program. You say, I will build this large of a system and I will sell you renewable energy credits at this price. And then Excel will either accept it or not accept it. So that's basically what we did, is we bid on a price for renewable energy credits and told them about our farm and all the things that we wanted to do. And they said, sure. And they've been supportive of us over the past couple of years since we won that bid. As far as I think the reason why a lot of utilities are struggling with having community solar gardens come on board with them is that it changes how the electricity moves within their grid, and can cause destabilizing impacts every so often. Like we're struggling through one right now where we are interconnected at the end of their grid just south of Longmont, and our local substation doesn't have, the substation in Niwot doesn't have any other contributors as large as us putting power in. And so if there's some sort of fluctuation in our local grid where people all of a sudden, everybody turns on their air conditioners at the same time, can destabilize our grid. And so that makes it harder for us to contribute to Excel. So there's a lot of intricacies of having lots of small solar gardens like ours being tied in, but I definitely think it's possible. Yeah.
3 years ago, Tesla approached the houses in Lafayette and essentially gave them free solar panels split the bill, which was reduced bill. That Excel not impeding progress. It must take it. Excel, I asked the question. Why? Excel has to have a certain percentage of its power produced by solar or other means. They count those.
Yep.
Solar panels, your solar panels, ones on the roofs, and other places. And it's part of that percentage. That's an incentive for them. That's fine. That's the only economic reason.
Yeah, you know, if electricity was only about finances, the government might decide that they want to subsidize coal more, and then we're just doing coal, and that completely negates any of the environmental impacts of coal or other natural or other fossil fuels on our land. Whereas by taking into account the impacts of different types of energies, that's where Excel is more incentivized of having more renewable energy on their grid, because governments are seeing that solar or wind or other things have less of a negative impact on our environment. So they're actually putting some sort of economic value to that, whereas previously there wasn't.
So I think we've got a question from online real quick. Just want to make sure we mix those folks in. So Dave Turner asked, how often are you curtailed, i.e. you're generating electricity, but the grid is unable to accept it?
We had that problem over this past month. At the beginning of June, the destabilization kind of started. Right now we are producing from morning through mid-afternoon, and then the grid destabilizes, and then we're not able to continue connecting, which is a financial loss for us. Whereas up until June, there was no problem. We were producing full on. So right now, Excel is trying to figure out why that is and see how they can remedy that. It's just taking longer than I'd like.
I'm curious, your previous experience with the AIP, is there a way that government and the photovoltaic, is there a way that solar is going to establish agriculture in places that there isn't power already? You're going to be able to reap the benefits of the solar panels providing electricity into an area where there isn't electricity.
That's something that solar can do, creating its own decentralized microgrids that people are doing around the world already. With one of the benefits that I see from my experience with USAID is in countries where there's desertification occurring. If you put the panels along those areas where desertification is occurring, that helps to put more moisture in the soil. It retains that moisture for any seeds to actually start germinating and for vegetation to grow. And so it could be one of those tools in helping to stop the onslaught of desertification in certain areas.
Take one more question. Mike.
Curious about the economics of the solar and the agriculture, which is more profitable.
Right now, all of our economics is based off of our electricity production, and we are basically donating our land to Sprout City Farms to cultivate crops so that we can learn about. And then once we spend a few years learning more about what it's like of growing crops underneath our solar panels, then we'll have a better economic case for what it's like of growing certain types of crops within our solar array, so that information can be shared with other folks. Oh yeah, so I did mention that we are the largest research site for agrivoltaics in the country. So nobody has done it at our scale or anything like this anywhere else. So it's all a learning process for us right now. mile south of Oscar Blues, off of North 95th Street, just south of Longmont, so in between Niwot and Longmont. It's 95 in Ogallala.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Pass it all the time.
There you go. We're
Just under the radar.
You know, it's funny, like I hear that all the time because the mountains are to the west, so everybody's staring at the mountains and our panels are on the east. Yeah. There you go. There you go. So if you all would like to come out and have a tour, you can contact me for having a group tour or come out on Saturday mornings and join the public tour.
Yeah. I've got the link for the tour stuff, so we'll see if we can put together a group to come out on a Saturday, maybe, or work with you on a different day if possible. And Byron, it really was fascinating, and I think everyone really enjoyed it. I saw a lot of interaction, and we wanted to give you a gift, our appreciation for coming. So use it as a paperweight, but also I know as a world traveler, it's kind of fun to have.
Yeah, it's always fun to have a globe.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Well, so I've got a real quick, Jim has just a reminder about his amazing Paul Harris talk and their passing the hat effort.
Since I saw most of you there, I won't go into the details. I put on maps that 2030 is 501c3 nonprofit. Foundations to that organization eligible for tax exemption. Also, as of this morning, almost halfway to our goal. $150, $500. So it's looking good so far. And perhaps next week we can get a better status.
Thanks, Jim. Well, with that said, I know we're a minute over, but I appreciate y'all bearing with us on our first meeting back in person in what feels like a decade. In our awesome new space again, thanks, Joanne. And as they say in almost all the other clubs I've ever been in, there are Wednesday clubs, and it's Wednesday, it's Rotary. Thank you all.
Great, so you can
It's in St. Andrews. Oh, it is. In the closet, yeah.
Thank you, Jay.